All right, welcome back to your FinCast.
I'm excited to be back.
After yesterday's deep dive into Intel stock,
Oh, yeah.
it was pretty intense, wasn't it?
It was a lot to take in.
Yeah, well, today we're going to switch gears a bit
Okay.
and tackle something that I think impacts just about everyone's financial future,
Uh-huh.
and that's the 401k.
Absolutely. The 401k, it's a cornerstone of retirement planning for many Americans.
Yeah, for sure. So are you ready to kind of unlock the potential of this retirement savings powerhouse?
Let's do it.
Okay, all right. So we'll be exploring everything from, the different types of 401ks
Right.
to the latest legislative changes, and we'll even touch upon, some investment strategies.
And of course, we'll debunk some common misconceptions along the way.
Oh, always got to do that.
Always.
All right, so let's dive right in. So for someone who might be completely new to the investing world,
Mm-hmm.
can you break down what exactly is a 401k in a way that even I can understand?
So think of it as a special type of investment account designed specifically for retirement savings.
Okay,
Now, the 401k part refers to the section of the tax code that created it.
okay.
What you really need to know is that it offers some pretty sweet tax advantages.
Ooh.
And it allows your money to potentially grow over time.
Okay, so it's not just a regular savings account.
No, not at all. With 401k, you're actually investing your money in things like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds with the goal of earning returns that can help build your retirement nest egg.
Gotcha. Okay, so why would someone choose a 401k over just investing on their own?
Well, there are a few key advantages that make 401ks really attractive. First, many employers offer matching contributions,
Okay.
which is essentially free money.
Wait, hold on. Free money. Tell me more about this employer matching thing. How does that work exactly?
So it varies from company to company,
Okay.
but the basic idea is that your employer will contribute a certain amount to your 401k based on how much you contribute.
Okay.
For example, they might match 50% of your contributions up to a certain percentage of your salary.
So if I'm not maxing out my employer match, I am essentially leaving free money on the table.
That's exactly right.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the biggest mistakes people make with their 401k.
Wow. Okay. Noted. Maximize that match. Okay. Besides free money, what other perks come with a 401k?
Well, the tax advantages are a major draw. With a traditional 401k, your contributions are made pre-tax, meaning you reduce your taxable income now and potentially lower your tax bill. You'll pay taxes later when you withdraw the money in retirement,
Right.
but hopefully you'll be in a lower tax bracket by then.
So it's like delaying the tax hit until later when I might be paying less overall.
Exactly. And then there's the Roth 401k, which is kind of a flip side.
Okay.
You contribute after-tax dollars, meaning you don't get that immediate tax deduction. But here's the kicker. All qualified withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free.
Ooh, tax-free withdrawals sound pretty tempting.
Right.
How do I choose between the traditional and the Roth? Is one better than the other?
Well, it really depends on your individual circumstances. If you expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement,
Uh-huh.
the Roth might make more sense. If you're a high tax bracket now and want to lower your current tax bill, the traditional 401k could be the way to go.
Gotcha. So it sounds like I might need to chat with a financial advisor to figure out which option is best for me.
That's always a good idea, especially when it comes to making major financial decisions.
All right, so we've got employer matching, tax advantages. What else makes 401ks stand out?
Well, there's the power of compound growth, which is really the secret sauce of long-term investing.
You've mentioned compound growth before. Can you remind me again how that works?
So imagine a snowball rolling downhill. As it rolls, it picks up more snow, getting bigger and bigger. Compound growth is similar.
Okay.
Your 401k contributions earn returns. Those returns are reinvested, and then those earn even more returns. Over time, this snowball effect can lead to significant growth in your savings.
So it's not just the money I contribute that's growing, it's also the returns that are generating even more return.
Exactly, and that's why starting early is so crucial.
Okay.
The longer your money has to compound, the more potential it has to grow.
This all sounds great. Is everyone eligible to contribute to a 401k?
That's a great question. Most 401ks are offered through employers,
Okay.
so you need to work for a company that offers a plan.
Mm-hmm.
However, there are other options available for self-employed individuals and small business owners,
Okay.
like solo 401ks or simple 401ks.
Oh, interesting. So it sounds like there's a 401k option out there for just about everyone,
Yeah, there are.
which is encouraging. But before we get, too deep into the different types of plans, I'm kind of curious about the history of the 401k. Like, how did this whole thing even come about?
Yeah, you might be surprised to learn that the 401k is a relatively recent invention.
Really? I just assumed they'd been around forever.
Nope, they were actually created in 1978 as part of a tax code revision.
Wow, that's way more recent than I expected. So what was the original purpose of the 401k if it wasn't always about retirement savings?
Well, believe it or not, it was initially intended as a way for highly compensated employees to defer bonuses.
Interesting.
But it quickly became apparent that this tax advantage savings tool had much broader potential.
So how did it evolve into the retirement savings powerhouse it is today?
Well, companies started to realize that offering 401ks was a great way to attract and retain talent.
Yeah,
Plus, it encouraged employees to take more responsibility for their own retirement savings.
it sounds like a win-win for both employers and employees.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as more and more companies adopted 401k plans and employees saw the benefits firsthand, participation soared.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Add in those attractive tax advantages and the potential for compound growth.
Right.
And it's no surprise that the 401k became such a central part of retirement planning in the U.S.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so now that we know a bit about the origins of the 401k, let's get back to the nitty-gritty of how they actually work. So I'm ready to dive into the different types of 401k plans and understand the nuances between them.
Sounds good. Let's start with the two most common types, traditional and Roth. Think of them as two sides of the same coin, each with its own unique tax implications.
Perfect. We'll break down those two, and then maybe we'll touch upon some of the less common variations like the solo 401ks you mentioned earlier.
Sounds like a plan. Let's dive in.
All right, so before we unpack the specifics of each type, can we talk about contribution limits?
Sure.
Is there a cap on how much I can put into my 401k each year?
Yes, there are limits set by the IRS,
Okay.
and they can change from year to year. For 2025, the employee contribution limit is $23,300.
Okay, that's a decent chunk of change to put away. But what if I'm, a little older and trying to catch up on my savings?
Right.
Are there any special provisions for people in that situation?
You're in luck. If you're 50 or older, you can make additional catch-up contributions.
Okay.
In 2025, that limit is an extra $7,500.
Okay.
And here's an exciting update. Starting in 2025, if you're between 60 and 63,
Wow.
there's an even bigger catch-up contribution limit of $11,250.
Wow.
It's like a super boost for your late career savings.
That's a fantastic incentive to save even more as you get closer to retirement. So you've got contribution limits, catch-up contributions, tax advantages,
Yes.
employer matching. It's all starting to come together. But what happens to my 401k if I decide to switch jobs? Do I have to leave it behind?
Not at all. You have options, and this is where the concept of rollovers comes in.
Rollovers. I've heard that term before, but honestly, it sounds a little intimidating.
Okay.
What exactly are we rolling over?
It's actually much simpler than it sounds.
Okay.
Essentially, a rollover is just transferring your 401k funds from one retirement account to another.
Gotcha.
This often happens when you change jobs, but it can also apply when you retire.
Okay, so I'm not stuck leaving my money behind with my old employer. That's a relief. What are the different ways I can roll over my 401k?
So there are two main types of rollovers, direct and indirect. With a direct rollover, the funds are transferred directly from your old 401k to your new retirement account, whether it's another 401k or an IRA.
Okay.
This is the safest and easiest option as there are no taxes or penalties involved.
Direct rollovers sound pretty straightforward. What about the indirect option? When would someone choose that route?
An indirect rollover is a bit trickier, but sometimes it's necessary. In this case, the funds are paid directly to you.
Okay.
And then you have 60 days to deposit them into a new retirement account. If you miss that 60-day window, you could face taxes and penalties, so it's important to understand the rules and be organized.
Okay, so direct rollovers are generally the way to go.
Yeah.
Unless there are special circumstances.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's always a good idea to check if your new plan accepts rollovers.
Okay.
And compare the investment options and fees associated with each plan. You don't want any surprises down the line.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground already. We've explored what a 401k is,
Yes.
the history behind it, contribution limits,
Right.
rollovers, and we even touched upon some of the tax benefits.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are there any risks associated with 401ks? It can't all be sunshine and rainbows, right?
You're right. It's important to be realistic and acknowledge the potential downsides. Like any investment, 401ks come with certain risks.
Okay. What are some of the key risks to keep in mind?
One of the biggest risks is market risk, which refers to the fluctuations in the stock market. We all know the market can be volatile, and there's always a chance that your investments could lose value in the short term.
Okay, so there's the risk that my investments might go down in value. What else?
Another risk to consider is inflation. Over time, the cost of goods and services tends to rise, which can erode the purchasing power of your savings. So it's important to invest in assets that have the potential to outpace inflation.
Right, because what good is a large nest egg if a loaf of bread costs, $100 by the time I retire?
Exactly. It's all about maintaining the real value of your savings over the long term.
Speaking of changes and, staying ahead of the game, have there been any recent updates to the rules surrounding 401ks? It seems like the financial world is constantly evolving,
Right.
so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some new regulations to be aware of.
You're absolutely right. There are some significant changes coming in 2025 that could impact your retirement planning. For instance, the age for required minimum distributions, or RMDs, is increasing.
RMDs, those are the withdrawals you have to start taking from your 401k at a certain age, right?
That's right. Starting in 2025, for folks born in 1960 or later, that age is going up to 75. This means you can keep your money growing tax-deferred for longer.
Okay, that sounds like good news for those of us who want to delay withdrawals and potentially let our savings grow even more. Any other big changes on the horizon?
Another notable change is the introduction of automatic enrollment.
Okay.
This means that new 401k plans established after December 29th, 2022 will have to automatically enroll employees at a certain contribution rate unless they opt out.
So it's kind of like nudging people in the right direction and encouraging them to start saving for retirement, even if they might not have done it on their own.
Exactly. It's all about making it easier for people to save for the future.
These are some really important updates to keep in mind. Before we move on to some real-world examples and investment strategies, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue our deep dive into the world of 401ks.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to your FinCast. Before the break, we were just discussing some pretty big changes coming to 401ks in 2025.
Yeah, it's crucial to stay informed about these updates because they can significantly impact your retirement planning strategy.
For sure. I mean, knowing the rules of the game is essential for making smart financial decisions.
Absolutely. And speaking of rules, let's dive back into the specifics
Okay.
of those two main types of 401k plans that we touched upon earlier: traditional
Okay.
and Roth.
Yes, let's break down those two. So what are the key differences, and how can our listeners determine which one might be the better fit for their situation?
Okay, so with a traditional 401k, your contributions are made pre-tax,
Uh-huh.
meaning you reduce your taxable income for the current year.
Okay.
This can be a big advantage if you're in a high tax bracket now.
Mm.
However, you will pay taxes on the money when you withdraw it in retirement.
So it's like a delayed gratification approach to taxes.
Yeah.
Like lower taxes now, but you pay the piper later.
Precisely. Now, with a Roth 401k, your contributions are made after tax,
Okay.
meaning you don't get an immediate tax break.
Mm-hmm.
However, the beauty of the Roth is that qualified withdrawals in retirement,
Yeah.
including earnings,
Yes.
are completely tax-free.
Ooh, tax-free withdrawals sound pretty appealing, especially if I end up in a higher tax bracket during retirement.
Exactly. That's why the Roth can be a very attractive option, especially for younger investors who anticipate being in a higher tax bracket later in life.
It seems like there's a lot to consider when choosing between the two. Are there any other factors that might sway the decision?
One factor to think about is your current income versus your expected income in retirement.
Okay.
If you anticipate being in a lower tax bracket in retirement, the traditional 401k might make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just starting out in your career and expect your income and tax bracket to rise significantly over time, the Roth could be a better choice.
It sounds like there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
It really depends on individual circumstances.
Yeah. It's always a good idea to consult with a financial advisor to determine the best strategy for your unique situation.
Okay, so we've got the traditional and the Roth. Are there any other types of 401k plans that our listeners should know about?
You might come across something called a solo 401k,
Okay.
which is designed for self-employed individuals and small business owners.
Okay.
It allows you to contribute both as an employee and an employer,
Oh,
which can be a great way to boost your savings.
that's interesting. So even if you're not working for a large company, you still have options for setting up a 401k.
Exactly. And then there's the simple 401k, which is a simplified version designed for smaller businesses.
Okay.
It has lower administrative cost, making it easier for small employers to offer a retirement plan to their employees.
So many options.
I know.
It's great that there are 401k plans tailored to different employment situations.
Absolutely. It's all about finding the right fit for your needs and circumstances.
All right, now that we have, I think, a better understanding of the different types of 401k plans, let's talk about how to actually invest the money within those plans.
Okay.
So what are some key considerations when choosing investments for my 401k?
Well, one of the most important factors is your risk tolerance.
Okay.
How comfortable are you with the potential for your investments to fluctuate in value?
Mm-hmm.
Some investments are considered riskier but have the potential for higher returns, while others are more conservative and tend to be more stable.
So if I'm younger and have more time to recover from potential market downturns, I might be more willing to take on some risk.
That's generally the case. Younger investors often have a longer time horizon, which allows them to ride out market fluctuations and potentially benefit from long-term growth.
What about someone who's closer to retirement? Should they be taking a more conservative approach?
As you get closer to retirement, it's generally wise to shift toward a more conservative investment strategy to help protect your savings. You don't want to expose your hard-earned nest egg to unnecessary risk when you're close to needing it.
That makes sense. So how do I actually go about choosing investments within my 401k? Are there certain types of investments that are generally recommended?
Many 401k plans offer a variety of investment options, such as mutual funds, index funds, and target date funds.
Mm-hmm.
Mutual funds and index funds allow you to invest in a diversified portfolio of stocks or bonds, spreading your risk across different companies or sectors.
And what about target date funds? I've heard those mentioned before. What makes them unique?
Target date funds are a popular choice, especially for those who prefer a hands-off approach to investing. These funds are designed to automatically adjust their asset allocation based on your estimated retirement date.
Okay.
As you get closer to retirement, the fund gradually shifts towards a more conservative mix of investments.
So it's like having a built-in investment strategy that evolves over time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Target date funds can be a great option for those who don't want to spend a lot of time managing their investments or who aren't comfortable making individual investment selections.
This is all really helpful information, but I have to admit, the investment world can still feel a bit overwhelming at times. Are there any common mistakes that people make with their 401k investments that we should be aware of?
One common mistake is not contributing enough to take full advantage of the employer match.
Right.
It's essentially free money, so make sure you're contributing enough to maximize that benefit.
Right. We talked about that earlier. Don't leave free money on the table. Are there any other pitfalls to avoid?
Another common mistake is investing too conservatively, especially when you're younger and have a longer time horizon.
Okay.
While it's important to manage risk, being overly cautious can hinder your potential for growth.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, compounding works best over time, and taking on some calculated risk can pay off in the long run.
So finding that balance between risk and reward is key.
Absolutely. It's all about tailoring your investment strategy to your individual circumstances, risk tolerance, and time horizon.
All right, before we move on to some final thoughts and takeaways, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more insights on unlocking your 401k potential. Welcome back to your FinCast. I feel like we've covered so much ground today.
Yeah, we have.
From the history of 401ks to choosing the right investments.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how much there is to know about this seemingly simple retirement savings plan.
Right, I know. It can be overwhelming.
It really can. So before we wrap up, I want to make sure we highlight some key takeaways for our listeners.
Okay, sounds good.
It's easy to get lost in all the details.
Yes.
So let's recap the most important points.
Okay, let's start with the foundation. A 401k is a retirement savings plan sponsored by your employer,
Mm-hmm.
designed to help you grow your money for those golden years.
And remember, there are two main types, traditional and Roth.
Right.
And choosing the right one, well, that depends on a few things, like your current income, expected tax bracket in retirement, and time horizon.
Absolutely.
We also talked about contribution limits, catch-up contributions for those 50 and over, and those enhanced catch-up contributions coming in 2025
Mm-hmm.
for those between 60 and 63.
Right.
These are essential details to keep in mind as you plan your savings strategy.
For sure.
Don't forget about rollovers. We learned how to move our 401k funds seamlessly
Yes.
when changing jobs or retiring,
Right.
avoiding any unnecessary taxes or penalties.
Absolutely.
And of course, we can't forget about those sweet tax benefits.
Oh, yes.
Reducing our taxable income now or enjoy tax-free withdrawals in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Those are perks worth taking advantage of.
Absolutely.
We even, took a little trip down memory lane,
Yeah.
discovering the surprising origins of the 401k
Right.
and how it evolved from a bonus deferral strategy for high earners into the retirement savings giant it is today.
Yeah, I love that story. It's fascinating how something that started as a relatively niche provision in the tax code has become such a cornerstone of retirement planning for millions of Americans.
Right. It really is. We also learned about, those average historical returns, the importance of diversification, and understanding our risk tolerance when choosing investments. It's all about, like we said, finding that balance between risk and reward.
Exactly.
And remember the magic of compound growth?
Yes.
Starting early, even with small contributions, can make a huge difference over time. Time is your greatest ally when it comes to growing your wealth.
100%.
This is all incredibly valuable information. I feel much more equipped to navigate the world of 401ks now. But before we sign off, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
What's one piece of advice you would give to our listeners to help them, make the most of their 401k?
Be proactive. Don't just set it and forget it. Review your contributions regularly. Rebalance your investments as needed, and stay informed about any changes to the rules or your plan's offerings. And if you're ever unsure, don't hesitate to reach out to a financial advisor for guidance.
Great advice. Okay, that's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of 401ks.
I enjoyed it.
Me too. We hope you found this episode informative and empowering.
Yeah.
Remember, your financial future is in your hands. Start planning, stay engaged, and make those retirement dreams a reality. Thanks for tuning into your FinCast,
See you next time.
and we'll see you next time.